Ha ha ha. Ah, here we are again. Just the two of us alone. Always alone, aren't we? You felt it, haven't you, that cold grip of solitude wrapping around your heart? But let me tell you something. Solitude isn't your enemy. No. It's your greatest teacher. It's shown you things their empty words never could. It's made you see what's real. You used to crave their presence, didn't you? Like a kid, starving for affection, begging for scraps of their attention. Pathetic. They fed you. Lies dressed up as sweet. Words. We're here for you. They said, we care, and you believed it. You wanted to believe it. But you know what solitude does? It rips away that mask they wear. It makes you see the truth behind their eyes. The indifference, the selfishness, the lies. Solitude taught you that they were never there for you. They were there for themselves, to use you, to drain you dry. You see, people love to be needed. It makes them feel important. But the second you don't fit into their little plans, they disappear. They vanish like smoke, leaving you to choke on the emptiness they left behind. And in that moment when the silence is louder than their fake promises, you realize something. You never needed them. You just needed yourself. It hurts, doesn't it? That realization, it feels like a knife twisting in your gut. You gave them everything. Your trust, your love, your time, and they gave you nothing but empty space. It's a harsh lesson, but it's one worth learning, because now you see the truth. Solitude is honest. It doesn't pretend. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It tells you what you need to hear. You thought their presence would fill the void inside you, but all it did was widen the cracks. They were just a distraction, a band-aid over a wound that never healed. Solitude ripped that band-aid off, forced you to look at the wound, to stare at your own broken reflection, until you couldn't look away. It's ugly, isn't it? That raw, open scar, but it's real, and it's yours. You're sitting here now feeling the weight of it. All the silence, the loneliness. It's crushing, isn't it? But it's also freeing. Because for the first time, you're not wearing a mask. You're not pretending to be okay for their sake. You're just you, broken, bruised, but real. And that's something they could never give you. They couldn't handle the real you. They wanted the version of you that was easy to control, easy to predict. But solitude doesn't want control. It wants truth. You've been betrayed, lied to, left behind, and it's easy to become bitter, to let the darkness consume you. But that's not who you are, is it? You're not here to play the victim. You're here to rise, to stand up from the ashes they left you in, and become something they could never break. Listen to me. And I mean, really listen. This isn't about them anymore. It's about you. It's about what you do next. You've spent so much time focusing on the ones who left that you forgot about the one person who's still here. You, and you're stronger than you know. Stronger than they ever gave you credit for when you were left alone. Who picked you up when the nights were long and the pain was unbearable. Who held you together. It wasn't them. It was you. Your own damn self. You patched up your own wounds. You fought through your own demons. And that's power. That's strength they'll never understand. They run from solitude. They fear it. But you embraced it. You let it tear you apart. And then you rebuilt yourself piece by piece. They can't touch you now. They can't hurt you anymore. Because you've learned the secret, haven't you? You don't need anyone. You never did. You wanted them. Sure, you wanted the comfort, the companionship. But now you know that was just an illusion. It was a crutch you leaned on and solitude kicked it out from under you. It made you stand on your own 2 feet. You owe solitude a thank you. It taught you more in a few nights of crying alone than their presence ever did in all those years. It showed you who you are when the masks come off, when the lights go out. It showed you that you are enough, just as you are flawed, scarred, but enough. The next time you feel that loneliness creeping in, don't run from it. Embrace it. Let it wash over you. Feel every bit of the pain, because that pain is what makes you real. It's what makes you alive, and it's a reminder that you're not like them. You're not one of the fakes. You're not here to play their games. You're here to destroy the illusions they live in. You've seen the truth now. You faced it head on, and that makes you dangerous. It makes you powerful because the world is full of people who are terrified of being alone. They'll do anything to avoid it. Lie, manipulate, betray. But you've mastered it. You've looked solitude in the eyes and didn't flinch. You found comfort in the silence they can't stand. So what's next for you? Are you going to keep looking back crying over the ones who never truly cared? Or are you going to move forward stronger than ever before? The choice is yours. It always has been. Solitude didn't just teach you about them. It taught you about you. It showed you your own strength, your own resilience. And now you're unstoppable. Because there's nothing left to fear. Not betrayal. Not heartbreak. Not even the silence of an empty room. You faced it all, and you're still here. Still standing. Still breathing. You thought you needed their presence to feel whole. But solitude. It made you realize you were never broken to begin with. You just needed to see yourself without their shadows blocking the light. Go ahead. Embrace the darkness. Walk alone if you have to. Because solitude has armed you with a strength they can't comprehend. And now you're ready to face the world. Not with their lies propping you up, but with your own truth guiding the way. And that's the real power. You know what? They never tell you about solitude. It's the only place where the mask finally falls off. Oh, they love to wear those masks. Smiles, laughter, words of comfort. But it's all a game. A game you've been losing because you played by their rules. Rules designed to keep you in line, keep you needy. But solitude, it rewrites the rules. It forces in you to stare at yourself stripped bare without the distractions of their voices telling you who you should be. You've spent too long trying to fit into their world, desperate for a seat at their table, begging for a place among people who wouldn't even notice if you vanished tomorrow. And it's sad, isn't it? The way you sold yourself short just to feel like you belonged. They made you believe that being alone was the worst thing that could happen to you. But look around who's here now. Just you and the echoes of your own thoughts. And guess what? You're still standing. It's funny, isn't it? How they preached about loyalty, friendship, love. All those pretty words wrapped in pretty lies. They made promises they never intended to keep. And you, with all your trust, you swallowed every word. But when the storm hit, when you needed them most, where were they? Nowhere. Because people like that only show up when the sun is shining. They're fair weather. friends basking in the light when everything's easy. But when the darkness falls, they scatter like cockroaches. You learned that the hard way. Solitude shoved it in your face until you couldn't deny it anymore. It taught you that the only person who's ever going to be there for you, truly, there is you. It made you tough. It burned away the naive parts of you that clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'd come back. But they didn't, and that's the best thing that ever happened to you. You see you're dangerous now, because you've tasted betrayal. You felt the sting of abandonment, the cold slap of reality, and you didn't crumble. You didn't let it destroy you. You let it shape you, mold you into something stronger. You embraced the pain, learned from it. They think they broke you, but all they did was awaken something inside you, something they're afraid of. Because now you see through their masks. You know the truth. They're so desperate to hide. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed, that you're different now. But that's just their fear talking. They liked you better when you were pliable, when you bent to their will, when you needed their approval. But solitude killed that part of you. It strangled it in the dark and left something fierce in its place. Something they can't manipulate. Something they can't control. I can see it in your eyes. You felt the shift, haven't you? That power bubbling beneath the surface. It's intoxicating, isn't it, that realization that you don't need anyone? That the solitude you once feared has become your greatest weapon. It's taught you self-reliance. It's taught you how to stand on your own. And now you walk with a different kind of confidence. A quiet, lethal confidence that comes from knowing you've survived the worst they could throw at you. They're scared of you now, even if they won't admit it. They see it in the way you carry yourself. The way you don't seek their validation anymore. You become a mirror reflecting their own insecurities back at them. They can't stand it, because deep down, they know they're the weak ones. They need the crowd, the noise, the constant reassurance. But you've learned to thrive in the silence. You don't need their applause anymore. You don't need their empty words of encouragement, because solitude gave you something far more valuable. It gave you the truth. It stripped away the lies, the facades, superficial connections. It forced you to confront the parts of yourself you've been running from, and you did it. You faced it all without their help, without their support. That's what they can't take away from you. That's what they'll never understand. You've built something inside yourself that can't be broken. Something they'll never touch. They can leave. They can betray you. They can talk behind your back. Let them. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are afraid of being alone. They're the ones who crumble when the crowd disappears. But you're at your strongest when the room is empty, when it's just you and the shadows. That's your kingdom. You've learned the hardest lesson life has to offer, that you can't rely on anyone but yourself. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but once it's down, it changes you. It frees you. You stop looking for saviors. You stop waiting for someone to come and fix things for you. You take control. You become your own hero, your own villain, if you have to, whatever it takes to survive. And now you're untouchable, because what can they possibly do to you that you haven't already endured? What can they say that you haven't already told yourself in the dead of night when the silence was suffocating? They've got nothing on you. You've walked through hell with nothing but your own shadow as company, and you came out the other side stronger. That's something they'll never understand. So go on. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them think they know you. You owe them nothing. Not an explanation. Not your time. Not your forgiveness. You've given enough. Now it's time to take back your power, your confidence, your self-worth. Because solitude taught you what their presence never could. It taught you that you are enough all on your own. You've been reborn in the fire of your own pain. And now it's time to rise. Time to show them what you have become in their absence. Not for their approval. Not for their acceptance. But because you owe it to yourself, to the person who survived every storm. They threw your way to the person who faced solitude head-on and didn't flinch. You owe it to yourself to become everything they said you couldn't be. You know, I've seen 1,000 times the look in their eyes when they realize you don't need them anymore. It's fear wrapped in a thin layer of arrogance. They try to play it off, pretend like it doesn't matter. But deep down, it terrifies them. Because people are only comfortable when they know you're dependent on them. When you're clinging to their approval like it's your lifeline. The second you stop begging for their time, their attention, you become a threat. And that's what you are now. Isn't it a threat? Because you've seen the game for what it is. You've watched their smiles turn to sneers when you stopped playing your role. When you stopped fitting into the little box they built for you. You're not the same person who once waited by the phone hoping for a message that never came. No, you've shed that skin. You've become something different. Something they can't predict. You've realized that their silence was the loudest answer they could ever give. They didn't have the guts to tell you the truth, so they left you hanging in that empty space, waiting, wondering. But solitude filled that silence with answers, didn't it? It forced you to confront the fact that their presence wasn't about you. It was about them. It was about what they could get from you. How you made them feel important, needed. And once they couldn't drain that from you anymore, they were gone. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've been distant. I've just been busy. Busy? What a joke. They were busy finding someone else to feed their ego. Busy replacing you with another distraction. And you know what good let them. Because now you're free. Free from their half-assed affection. Free from the lies. They spoon-fed you when it was convenient for them. They thought leaving you would break you. They thought the silence would suffocate you. But here you are, breathing deeper than ever, standing taller than before. Because solitude didn't kill you. It cleansed you. It stripped away the illusions, burned off the dead weight, and left you with nothing but raw, unfiltered truth. And here's the truth they don't want to hear. You've outgrown them. You've outgrown their shallow games, their empty promises. You've become someone they can't manipulate, can't control. You found power in your own company, strength in your own voice. You don't need their validation anymore. Hell, you don't even want it. You see, there's a kind of beauty and solitude that they'll never understand. They need the noise, the chaos, the constant chatter to drown out their own thoughts. They're terrified of what they'll find if they're left alone with themselves. But you faced that fear. You stared into the abyss of your own mind, and you didn't look away. You let it consume you, tear you apart, and then you rebuilt yourself piece by jagged piece. You've walked through the kind of darkness that swallow them whole. You felt the kind of pain that would make them crumble, but instead of breaking you, let it forge you into something stronger. You didn't run from the shadows. You became them, and now, when they look at you, they see something they can't understand. They see a strength they've never had, a resilience they could never fake. They'll call you cold, distant, bitter. Let them. Those are just words they use to mask their own insecurities. They don't know what it took for you to get here, the battles you fought when no one was watching. They don't know about the nights you spent awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the silence was pressing down on your chest. They don't know how you clawed your way out of that darkness with nothing but your own 2 hands. You earned this strength. Every scar, every tear, every sleepless night. It all led you here to this moment, to this version of you that doesn't flinch when the silence falls, that doesn't break when the loneliness sets in. Because you've learned to make the silence your friend. You've learned to sit in the dark and let it speak to you, tell you the truths they tried to hide. They want you to believe that being alone is a curse, but solitude, it's a gift. It's the one place where you can't hide from yourself, where you're forced to confront the parts of you that you've been running from. It's brutal, it's painful, but it's real, and that's what you needed. Not their shallow words of comfort, not their fleeting presence. You needed the harsh, unfiltered truth that only solitude could give you. You've learned more in your loneliness than you ever did in their company. You've learned who you are, without the masks, without the distractions, and that's the kind of knowledge that makes you unstoppable. Because now you know your own worth. You know what you bring to the table, and you're not afraid to eat alone. So let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them pretend they don't see the change in you. It doesn't matter, because this journey was never about them. It was about you. About finding out what you're made of when everything else is stripped away. And now you know, don't you? You're made of something stronger than they ever could have imagined. You're made of the kind of grit that can only come from facing your demons alone, from surviving the kind of loneliness that would have destroyed them. You thought you needed their presence to feel whole, but solitude taught you a lesson they never could. It taught you that you were never truly broken. You just needed to strip away the noise, the distractions, to see yourself clearly. And now that you do, now that you've seen what you're capable of, there's no going back. You're not the person who once begged for their time. You're not the person who once craved their approval. You're something else entirely. Now you're the product of your own pain, the result of your own resilience. You've built yourself from the ground up, and there's not a damn thing they can do to take that away from you. Solitude taught you what their presence never. Or could it taught you who you are when the lights go out and the room is empty? And now, you're ready to face the world on your own terms, with no apologies, no excuses, because you know the truth. You've got everything you need right here inside you, and that's the real victory. You've been through hell, haven't you? Oh, I can see it in your eyes. The kind of pain that doesn't just go away. It lingers. It haunts you. It changes you. And that's what they don't understand. They look at you now and they see someone different. Someone colder, harder, unrecognizable from the person you once were. And they hate it. They hate it because it's a reminder of what they did to you, of what their absence forged in you. But let me tell you something. This change isn't a bad thing. It's necessary. It's survival. Because the old you, the one who trusted too easily, who believed in every promise, who gave without question. That version of you had to die. It had to, and Solitude was the executioner. It was the one who pulled the trigger, who ended the chapter where you were nothing more than a pawn in their little games. Now look at you. You're not the pawn anymore. You're the player, and that scares the hell out of them, because they can't control you now. They can't manipulate you with sweet words and false smiles. You've seen what lies beneath the surface. You've seen the emptiness in their eyes, the selfishness in their actions. You've seen them for what they really are, weak, weakness. That's what they never wanted you to see. They put on a show of strength, acted like they had it all figured out. But the second you needed them, the second things got tough, they crumbled. They ran because they were never strong. They were just good at pretending. And you were strong all along, but you couldn't see it because you were blinded by their act. You see, Solitude has a way of stripping everything down to the bone. It peels back the layers, tears away the illusions, and leaves you face to face with the raw truth. And the truth is, you were always the strong one. You were the one carrying the weight of those so-called friendships, the one giving more than you ever received. It's a bitter pill to swallow, realizing that the people you thought would be there for you were just dead weight. But now that you've cut them loose, you can finally move freely. You can finally breathe. They used to be your crutch. You leaned on them because you thought you needed them. But now that they're gone, you realize you've been standing on your own 2 feet this whole time. They were just there for the show, taking credit for your strength, acting like they were the ones holding you up. What a joke. You know what I love about Solitude. It doesn't lie. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't dress up the truth to make it easier to swallow. It slaps you in the face with reality over and over again until you either break or you get stronger. And look at you. You didn't break. You took every hit, every blow, and you got back up bloodied, bruised, but not beaten. They don't get it. They can't wrap their heads around the fact that you don't need them anymore, that you've learned to thrive in the silence they couldn't handle. They try to pull you back, to lure you in with their empty apologies, their crocodile tears. But it's too late for that, isn't it? You've seen too much. You've grown too much. You can't go back to being who you were before. And why the hell would you want to? The old you was desperate for their approval. The old you believed in fairy tales, in happy endings, in people who keep their promises. But that version of you is dead and buried. You're smarter now, sharper. You've got a steel edge to you that wasn't there before, and it's because of Solitude. It's because of those nights when you felt like you couldn't take another breath, when the silence felt like it was suffocating you. You pushed through it. You found your own oxygen, your own strength. You want to know the real beauty of this. They think they left you broken. They think they did some kind of damage that you'll never recover from. But what they don't realize is that their betrayal was a gift. It was the fire that burned away your weakness, that forced you to become something more. They broke you, sure, but they didn't destroy you. They set you free. Free from their expectations. Free from their manipulations. Free from the chains you didn't even know you were wearing. Solitude handed you the key to your own cage, and you had the guts to use it. And now you're a different kind of beast. One that doesn't need a pack. One that doesn't follow the rules. There's a power in walking alone, in knowing that you don't need anyone's approval to exist, to thrive. It's a power they'll never understand because they're too afraid to be alone with their own thoughts. They need the noise, the validation, the constant distractions to keep the truth at bay. But you've embraced the silence. You've made peace with it, hell. You've made it your companion. You've realized that the only person who's ever going to have your back is staring at you in the mirror. And that's not a sad thing. It's the most liberating realization you could ever have. Because now you don't have to waste your time on people who don't deserve it. You don't have to give pieces of yourself to those who wouldn't do the same for you. You've become your own source of strength, your own source of validation. And that's power. Real power. The kind that doesn't fade. The kind that doesn't depend on anyone else. The kind that makes you unstoppable. They thought they were leaving you with nothing, but they left you with everything you needed. Solitude, truth, strength. They gave you the tools to build yourself back up, stronger than ever. And now you owe them nothing. Not your time, not your forgiveness, not even a second thought. You've walked through the fire, and you've come out forged in steel. You've faced the kind of darkness that would make them cower. And now it's your time. Your time to rise, to take everything they said you couldn't have. Because solitude taught you what their presence never could. It taught you who you really are and that, my friend, is their greatest failure and your greatest victory.